good morning clap. Calm down. Today I'll be presenting Super Brainwaves 2.0. It's 2.0 since you couldn't get access to the last one. What is a superhero? According to Stanley, a superhero is a person who does heroic deeds and has the ability to do them in a way that a normal person couldn't. He says this because if they could do it in a way a normal person could, then a policeman or a firefighter could be considered a superhero. I'm gonna go to a quick link. So here's the 3D brain. You can see, oh no, I didn't mean to click that one, sorry. Here's the frontal lobe, and the frontal lobe it gives a little thing, but I'm not gonna read off that. It's basically in charge of like thinking, memory, behavior, and movement, and it's basically where your personality lies. And they figured this out because of Phineas Gage. He gets a metal rod through his frontal lobe, and he basically turns into a different person. There it is. And these are the temporal lobes. They're in charge of hearing, learning, and feeling. So that's where they are. Sorry. Not used to presenting. My goodness. There's the parietal lobes. They're in charge of language and touch. And so they're like on top of the head. Nope, didn't mean to click that one. And I wanted to go to the right there. The amygdala. That is in charge of like emotional, and it's basically like the fight or flight response. And the hippocampus, it's right next to it. And they say this is it's a part of the limbic system, but they also say this is a part of like memory. And I remember that by saying if there was a hippo on your campus, you would remember that. Then we can go back to this. Oh goodness, I'm bad at this. So this is another picture of that. And then gray and white matter. This is a photo of like what normal gray and white matter is. White matter, which is in the middle, it basically is the speed at which we process things, and gray matter is basically like muscle control and like sensory details. So Steve Rogers.
But more important, the men. The serum amplifies everything that is inside, so good becomes great, bad becomes worse. This is why you were chosen. Because the strong man, who has known power all his life, may lose respect for that power, but a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion.
Thanks, I think.
Whatever happens tomorrow, you must promise me one thing. That you will stay who you are.
Not a perfect soldier, but a good man.
To the little guys.
So, here's how I think Captain America's brain would look. His frontal and parietal lobes would be a little bigger. Like he's able to remember everything. His brain works 9 times faster than a normal human's. There's an increase in molecular density everywhere. He can't get drunk or high. And they amplified his personality, as it said in the video. Metabolism works 4 times as fast than normal. He can speak and read or write any language if he chose to learn it. He can, like, remember all the moves he learns on the field. And then his gray matter would also be affected, and so would his white matter, because that's where I said the motion would be, and the white matter would be affected because we process info through there. So because he has to process info, the white matter would be increased. And so he would have a bigger amygdala and a bigger hippocampus because of language and memory. He can remember a lot, so that's why the hippocampus is bigger, and then the amygdala is bigger also because he knows what to do in these situations, so it's bigger. And then Bucky Barnes. So I'm just gonna get out the DSM. So I believe he has PTSD, and I say this because he was captured by the Hydra in like 1940, and then was tortured and was like a prisoner of war, and then he was released, and then he was captured again, and then he has like 2 personas. And then if you look, this is like what they use to diagnose people with PTSD. He fits a lot of what they have. And also, he has like a lot of people with PTSD, there's things that like make them feel, like makes them experience like the traumatic events, or like there's like triggers, and like he has trigger words. And so like Steve, he can also remember a lot of language, but he's a little bit better at that. And also he's a little bit better at the remembering the moves. He got a knockoff version of the super serum, but I'm going to talk about that in a later slide. So his cerebellum and the brainstem, I believe, will be a little bit bigger because, and the Broca's area and the, I'm forgetting the name, Wernicke's area are a little bit bigger because he can remember and speak languages. Like he already knows Russian and American, and he can speak any language if he really tried. And the cerebellum and the brainstem, he he knows all these moves, and he also taught the Red Room, at least in the comics, I believe. And so he knows all these moves, and he can put them out at a faster rate than others. And so, going back to what I said about PTSD, people with PTSD, they put them through MRIs, and they also did twin studies where they took people with dizotic, like when they were in the womb, like in the same embryo together, and they found that when they both went to war, they came back with the same. They both had smaller hippocampuses, and that it was common for people with PTSD to have a smaller hippocampus, and then. So that's why I made his hippocampus a little smaller, but then they also found out that when one went to war and one didn't, they both had a smaller hippocampus, so I found that interesting too. So, we all know Bucky, or the Winter Soldier, only has one arm. So I believe he could experience phantom limb syndrome, where he feels his limb isn't there, but he feels pain where his limb would be, but it's not there. And this is like a brain scan of like people with limb syndrome, amputees without it, and then healthy brains. And then, so basically, this is what they believe is, I have the name of it right here. It's the it's somatosensory homunculus, and it basically means, it's Greek for little man. But if that doesn't look quite familiar, there's another version that people know better. That version, and basically it's where more neurons and cells are. So that's why the hands are bigger, the tongue. But I think it's quite creepy, so let's get rid of that. Why did it come back? I don't know why. Anyway, so let's say your hand, you got amputated and you didn't have a hand. So that's gone. But you're still using your wrist, I guess. They believe that the neurons and stuff from right here will start creeping into the hand area because it's not being used, and that's why you'll feel like it's there, because it's not being used, so it's just sort of overlapping. And how do you treat it? Well, you can use over-the-counter medicine, you can use antidepressants, but another thing is a mirror box, where you have a hole and you and basically you see your limb there, and then they do stuff to your limb, sort of, and then a lot of people find it really helpful, and from what I've heard, it's very helpful. They can also do like, not amputation, that's the problem, like acupuncture. So the contrast between Steve Rogers and Bucky Barnes is like, well, one, Steve Rogers got the pure super serum. Bucky Barnes got like the knockoff, like Hydra was trying to make it. But what caused them to be superheroes? But then, what's also inside, like it amplifies what's inside. Steve Rogers was always like that little kid trying to be brave. He wanted to do what's good for everyone. Bucky Barnes was always trying to protect him and protect the ones he loves. And it's like loyalty and then like bravery was like amplified. And then it's also sort of what got Bucky to stop being the Winter Soldier in the movie, because he was loyal to Steve Rogers, and that's sort of what got him to not be the Winter Soldier anymore. And the hippocampus and the amygdala are different in both of them. In Steve Rogers, it's bigger, and in Bucky's, it's smaller. So, in the Tobey Maguire version, you saw his genes were like re-going. He always has a perfect equilibrium, and he also has like increased senses or spidey sense, and also he's always been really smart even before the spider bite. And so it was really hard for me to try to decide what causes him to always have a perfect equilibrium, but I decided all of this was caused by bigger neurons and faster neurons. But like smarter people, it's been shown, they found out in 2018, have bigger and faster neurons. And so he already had bigger and faster neurons. He went to a smart school, and he was a smart kid. He read, a good scientist. But I think the transaction of the spider bite made it even faster and made them even bigger. Because to get from the vestibular system and to make it constantly balanced would take, it would have to be really fast. And then Bruce Banner would be, a lot of his changes were around his body, not his brain. I would also say he has bigger and faster neurons because he's one of the smartest people in the Marvel Universe, I would have to say. So I would say he has bigger and faster neurons. And then here are some of my citations that I used.
So today I will be presenting Super Brainwaves 2.0. Today I will be presenting Super Brainwaves, and this is the 2.0 version because the other version you couldn't get access to. So what is a superhero? According to Stan Lee, okay. That's what she said. Your arms are hurting.